They're still doing this.
I am so glad. I'm so glad you said that. I am with you on this 100%. Why do we need a new iPhone every year? I don't think we do. I would even struggle to understand why we need one every 2 years, because the hardware that's inside these devices, I mean, look at when the Google Pixel was launched. Something was kind of unveiled with the Google Pixel 8 line last year, when Google turned around and said, we can support this phone with updates for the next 7 years. And you're thinking, hang on a minute, so if this thing can be updated and is updatable for 7 years from now, why would I buy a new phone next year? And I kind of thought, that's a strange thing for Google to say. Now, of course, there will be new features and new capabilities. I mean, if you were to think back 7 years from now, AI wasn't even a thing. We didn't even think about AI inside our smartphones. So, you know, look how far things have come in the space of time. I've got to say, though, I'm looking forward to the watch. We're at Series 10. Are they going to call it the 10? Are they going to call it the X? Because they tend to, when they get to 10, call it X. So I don't know if they're going to change that.
But do you think we're going to see it next week? I don't think we're going to see a watch this soon. Like, I'm trying to remember in history. Like, there's so many Apple events that it confuses me sometimes. Do we see watches at the same time of iPhones? Normally we see iPhones, AirPods. We don't always see a watch, do we? I'm probably going to be entirely wrong on this, but I'm fairly sure that, yeah, the watches are released at the same time. AirPods, of course. Now, that's an interesting one, because I love my Apple AirPods Pro 2. Okay.
I think, and I'll let you go out on a limb and say I think they're the best Apple AirPods, that type of, you know, in-ear bud that you can get. I think just the noise cancellation is incredible. The sound is excellent. I know you don't like them because they don't fit in your strange ears.
Listen, no, hang on. I like the sound quality. I think they are great performing headphones, especially when you look at the landscape of companies that put out headphones. I mean, they're definitely on the top tier with some of the big names out there, like Bowers and Wilkins and Bose and Sony.
Oh, yeah.
They're good earphones, right? But they don't fit every single ear. So unlike you, where they fit no problem, I have to use ones that have like that wingtip on it, like the Beats Fit Pro. Those are my go-to. But at least they have the features like the transparency and stuff, because Beats is now an Apple company. But I'm with you. They're good headphones, but they're still not, even though they say they're ergonomically designed for everybody. Like, they're not. They don't fit in everybody's ear. I know a lot of people that they don't fit into.
Yeah, I hear this a lot, and it is a problem with them. But like you say, there are ways around that. There are ways to make it work. I do like this style of headphone. It's surprising to me because I don't often like buds. I prefer over-ear cans, as we call them, especially in the radio industry. You always call them cans. But what I'm talking about is over-ear headphones, right? Big headphones. Also, if you want to avoid people in the street, if someone comes up to you in the street and you say, hi, if you've got those big headphones on, no one will talk to you. So, you know, that's a good reason to have them. Will we see new AirPods Max, though? Because, of course, that's the one I'm interested in.
Oh, God.
That's the one I'd love to see.
You're interested in those?
Amazing.
Really? I mean, that's so heavy on my head. My wife really wanted them. She liked the look of them. We tried them on at an Apple store. She's like, these are heavy. And so, you know, I'm more towards like the Beats Studio Pro, because they've got all the same features in it, but they're lighter and in my opinion, they're just a better sound quality. But no, I can't get the Max. They're heavy, man. Heavy and expensive. They're the price of an iPhone.
Well, yeah, no, that's right. Well, that's the problem with Apple products, isn't it? You've always got the premium. I was very lucky. They came out 2 days, I think, before my birthday, whenever they came out a few years ago. And my wife came into the room and she said, I'm so glad they've come out. I can buy you something for your birthday. It's the only thing you don't have. And I was very pleased with that result.
I'm sure.
And I've still got them, and I love them. The battery isn't as good. You know, obviously there's still Lightning connection on there, not USB-C. So there's lots of things to update. So that gives me a sense of why they may want to decide to upgrade these, but we shall see.
You actually just brought up the one point that I want new iPhones, is because my daughter is the only one in the house that still has a Lightning connector and anything. So we need to get her up to date. We need to start some hand-me-down cycles here. We need to get her onto the bandwagon of USB-C. And the same thing, like, you know, there's still some accessories that we still have around the house that use that Lightning cable. I'm done with Lightning, Stephen. I want USB-C on absolutely everything. What about Max? Do you think we're going to see Max? This is not the time for that, right?
No, although there's a lot of rumours flying around about the Mac Mini. So the Mac Mini's been pretty much the same design since the passing of Steve Jobs, in fact, before that. And
oh, wow, that long.
You know, it's been a long time around. I mean, I want to say 14 years, which is an incredible length of time for something not to change. However, it works. It's really good. But of course, Apple's processors now are so small, so dinky, that, you know, they can fit inside a much smaller box. USB-As are apparently history. So, we're going to be moving away from that. So, it's reported anyway that it's going to be a more Apple TV-like design of the Mac Mini, and then that is going to be including like 5 USB-C ports and HDMI and an Ethernet, and all the things that are great about a Mac Mini, and possibly even better Pro M4 processors in there. Lots of rumors. I don't think we'll see it at this event, though.
Guess what? Not much time to wait. The event is on Monday at 1 p.m. Eastern. And guess what? You'll have complete coverage on, of course, Double Tap, and we'll have complete coverage here on Access Tech Live next week. And hopefully we'll be going hands-on with this stuff. I don't know when exactly that cycle is going to happen, but we will figure it out. Stephen, coming up on Access Tech Live in just a few days left for the remaining events of the Paralympics before closing ceremonies on September 8th. The 2024 Games featured 23 sports and a total of 561 events, an increase from Tokyo in 2020. And you know what, Stephen? How does tech play a role? That's a question we're going to find out. We're going to dive in after a quick break here on Access Tech Live.
There's more Access Tech Live to come. Get involved and have your say at Access Tech Live on social media. We'll be right back. Access Tech Live will return in less than 2 minutes. Access Tech Live is in a commercial break. Access Tech Live will return in less than 2 minutes. Access Tech Live is in a commercial break. The show will return in less than a minute. Access Tech Live will be back in 30 seconds. Now, back to Access Tech Live.
Now, the Paralympics have grown in size considerably this year, as Mark was saying just before the break. We are talking about 23 events happening, 561 events happening with 23 sports. I mean, it's an incredible amount of numbers flying around here. And, of course, an amazing number of people from around the world as well. The whole thing, though, wraps up on Sunday in Paris, Mark.
Yeah, so what's changed in the Paralympics since their inception in 1960? Well, Victoria Nolan is a multi-talented 4-time Paralympian and the most experienced member of the Canadians' power rowing team. Plus, she's an author, a former TV host, a wife, a mother, and a national manager for the CNIB, and we caught up with her.
Victoria Nolan, welcome to Access Tech Live.
Hi, thanks for having me.
So first off, let me ask you, what got you into the world of Paralympics then? How did you get started?
Oh my gosh, it's such a weird story because I didn't start off thinking I was going to get into the Paralympics. I actually was looking for a sport to do that would motivate me to get out of the house because I was going through a rough time where I was literally afraid to leave the house. So when I found rowing, it just kind of snowballed into loved the sport, couldn't get me off the water, then started competing locally, and then that grew into provincially, and then it just kept going. I guess I got the competitive bug.
Now, you've competed at the highest level in multiple games, including the most recently in 2020. So how's that experience of the Paralympics evolved over the years, both either as an athlete or just the competition itself for you?
Wow. Well, especially for the sport of rowing. Rowing was just introduced as a Paralympic sport when I started. So 2008 was the first time that it appeared in the Paralympic Games. So the competition has definitely increased over the years. So now, after having been to 4 games, I can tell you that it is very intense. The level of the athletes that are competing now are, the competition is much higher than it was when I first started. So it's developed a lot that way. And myself as an athlete as well, when I started, I had never been a competitive athlete. It was all new to me. And so that learning curve of just like how much I had to push my body every day and learning how to deal with the recovery and, getting out into the water 3 times a day. And it was a lot. So, by the time I got to competing in Tokyo in 2021, I was a lot more, obviously, a seasoned veteran as an athlete. And it was less about, dealing with that fatigue and recovery and more about strategy and competition. So, yeah, it was quite a change over the years.
And like you say, Victoria, a lot has changed in the Games, especially when you go back to the beginnings in 1960. But, I think about a sport like yours, rowing. I don't automatically marry up technology and rowing, but I guess it has a role to play, right?
Absolutely, in so many different ways. When I think back to 2008, we didn't even have, the cell phones and the laptops to the extent that we do now. So communication with family and friends was tough. I remember, waiting for the computer in the hotel lobby, waiting for your turn at that. So just, from a communication standpoint, it's changed a lot, but also for getting data. So I would train on a rowing machine and there's a screen that gives you, your splits, how fast you're going. And so over the years, it's become much easier for me to access that information. Whereas, when I first started training, I just had to go more on feeling and getting input from other people. So I became a lot more independent as the technology improved.
Now, I have to ask you a question, and I'm not going to hold you to it. You don't have to answer for the entire Paralympic community and para-athlete community. But in your experience, what are some of the most significant advancements in technology that's been introduced in the Paralympic Games? And do you think they've leveled the playing field for athletes?
Absolutely. What I was just explaining about, being able to get that feedback, real-time feedback. There was a period where you would be able to get the feedback, but once you were finished the workout, and now it's like you can put on, your AirPods and get feedback as you're doing the workout. So that's huge. And also, I think just with your, your fitness stats, your heart rate, all of that stuff is way more accessible now.
And I want to pick up on something you said there about independence, because, when I think about the role technology can play in something like the Paralympics, for athletes, of course, for competing, there's lots of benefits. But there's a social side to the Paralympics as well, right? You're meeting people from all over the world, getting a chance to speak to people who speak different languages. Technology can break that barrier, of course. We talk about that all the time on Access Tech Live. So, the potential here is huge for you to not only compete, but also socially connect with lots of people, even after you go home.
Absolutely. And I think especially for athletes who are blind or have low vision, reaching out to those athletes from around the world isn't always easy, right? You can't always, locate them and go have a conversation. But if you can connect with them through social media, you have a lot more access to them and as well to information, right? And finding out how do other athletes overcome these barriers or what are their strategies. So it definitely opened up the world for learning more about your sport.
And I think also exposure, too, if we think about it. If you look at the current Paralympic Games, which are ending just this weekend, the access to coverage and the analytics and data that us as consumers can dive into, I think helps us almost sensitize us a little bit to, what it's like to be an athlete. Do you feel that, people who are, spectators are getting a little bit more information than they would have in the past?
Absolutely. And I think that's always been a challenge for the Paralympics is the coverage is never quite the same as the Olympics. And so, being able to live stream and having your own accounts to share your information is definitely helped with reach and with awareness about Paralympic sport.
Do you think the Games have a positive impact on disability and more generally, I guess, visibility of disabled people out there? It's always a question that comes up when the Paralympics come along, right?
I think that's a challenging question. I think it depends who you talk to. So for me personally, yes, I think it does do a lot for how people view disability. It shows what's possible. It breaks down barriers. I think what you have to be careful of is that that's not the only way to be successful as someone with a disability. I think sometimes people think that's, it's kind of binary. It's like you're kind of either a hero as an athlete or you're just kind of, trying to deal with your day-to-day life and it's miserable. So I don't like that dichotomy. But yeah, in general, I think it does help.
So, looking to the future of the Paralympic Games, and the trends that we're seeing now in tech and the innovations, is there anything that really excites you about how it shapes the experience for athletes in the coming years?
Yeah, of course, I'm excited to see how AI is going to play into this. And I don't know enough about technology to predict where that's going, but I do know how it's been helping me so far. Things like when I can, have a graph interpreted for me, or ask questions, about data that's there. I think about too when I used to have to get feedback from my coach, about how my body positioning was and kind of relying on that external feedback. But if you can get a photo or a video of your training and then ask the specific questions that you want to know, again, it's that independence, not having to rely on someone else. So that sounds like a pretty exciting road that we're going down.
And at a very basic level, for someone like myself who's not the most active, I'll just put that out there, and that's me being very mild about it. I would sit in this chair for 12 hours, maybe walk to my bed.
Okay.
And that alone could be enough, right? Maybe I could, if there was a Paralympic sport going for that, I'd probably win gold. But look, being serious about this, it's a great opportunity in the Paralympics, and the message, I guess, of the Paralympics and Paralympians themselves to say, you know what, getting out there, going for a gentle walk, even as someone who's blind, getting out, getting a walk, getting some exercise, it's good for your mental health. Use your Apple Watch to track your steps. And, going forward from that, track the steps the next day. And perhaps you've walked a little bit further and really use that technology to inspire people off the couch, off the sofa, at the very least.
Absolutely, yeah. And I think you're right. I think that's a great motivator for people. I mean, they're using these apps and, people have figured out how to reward people for getting out there and taking those steps and being active. So I think it is definitely a positive step for people to get more active.
But it works on the flip side as well, doesn't it? Because you get people who say, well, I see these Paralympians doing all this great stuff, and I think, God, all I'm doing is going for a walk. I can't possibly compete with them. It can work on the other side.
I guess so, yeah. But I mean, what I use an app now that I'm not competing and, training for like 6 hours a day, I'll use an app that I just record the bare minimum, right? Like, so I have to at least walk for 5K or, whatever it is. And that's keeping track of that. So, I mean, okay, I'm saying 5K, but whatever what's reasonable for you, walk around the block every day. And, if you get a streak of doing that, every day for a week, you feel good.
Victoria, this new generation of athletes are going to leverage technology in really cool ways that we don't even know. As you said, we can't predict the future when it comes to the technology and the AI. So what kind of advice would you give to, youngins who are looking to pursue their dreams in sports, whether they have a disability or not?
Honestly, I think that outreach is key. So being able to connect with other people who've done it before you so that you get all the information that you need, you get that motivation. I think that's the greatest part of this is having those connections. It's really hard to overcome hurdles on your own. But if you've got that community, then that's going to help you to move along. So reach out and get to know people.
As Mark said earlier, one of the things that we're looking at the moment is the future, the legacy of the Paris Games. And that's always the conversation we have around this time at the end of the Paralympics in particular. We look ahead to the next Games, which is great. But I think there's an opportunity here not just to think about the Games themselves and the competing, but actually, in a way to use technology to help Paralympians and Olympians as well tell their stories. Talk about their journey, talk about the challenges they have, and use technology as a way to control the narrative in the way that we do here at Access Tech Live, the way that you've done on your various AMI shows that you've been involved with. It's a great opportunity for you to tell your story in your words, which is really, really important because you'll have off days, you'll have difficult challenges, all that stuff. And, being able to tell people that, I think, actually in a way can inspire more people than perhaps the headline-grabbing inspiration porn we often get when the media get hold of us and our stories.
Yes. Yeah. I'm glad that you pointed that out. I think that's an excellent point. Yeah. And I mean, that's another benefit of technology is dealing with those really difficult times, whether, you've won a gold medal or you've been disappointed with your result. Athletes struggle with, their own personal goals and challenges. And so being able to share those stories with each other and realize you're not alone and other people are struggling can really help you get through it.
Victoria, you are working on a book that's going to be coming out soon. No date announced yet. Can you tell us about the book and how technology kind of fits in?
Sure. So a friend of mine also has RP. We both have RP. And so we're writing a book that we are temporarily calling How to Be Blind. We've heard many times throughout our lives that no one wrote the book on how to be blind, so we are writing it. The book goes through what we're calling the 7 A's of how you deal with your diagnosis. So it's kind of a handbook for people who are newly diagnosed. We go through, acceptance and adaptation, accessibility. There's 7 of those A's to go through. But definitely technology comes into it as, a huge resource for people. As we've been talking about, to build that community so you learn from other people. Obviously, all the adaptations and accessible apps and things that can help you get on with your life and do the things that you want to do. We're hoping that it's going to bring all that information into one place. We know that a lot of people struggle with trying to get that information and seek it out. And often, if you're newly diagnosed, you don't necessarily want, the work of trying to find all that information. So if you've got this book on your shelf, maybe one day you'll just flip through it and get some inspiration.
Well, you'll have to come back and talk all about it when it's actually released so we can help you promote that. Victoria Nolan, thank you so much for taking the time to join us.
Thank you, guys.
And the Paralympic closing ceremony, September 8th this weekend. You tune into that. Coming up here on Access Tech Live, the Pixel Pro 9 XL. We're going to highlight some of the amazing AI features in Android 15. All that and more after a quick break. Stick around.
There's more Access Tech Live to come. Get involved and have your say at Access Tech Live on social media. We'll be right back. Access Tech Live will return in less than 2 minutes. Access Tech Live is in a commercial break. Access Tech Live will return in less than 2 minutes. Access Tech Live is in a commercial break. The show will return in less than a minute. Access Tech Live will be back in 30 seconds. Back to Access Tech Live.
Now, it's a great time of year because this is the time when you get to play with all the new tech toys. And, Google got in there first with their big Pixel event recently, just ahead of Apple's event that we talked about earlier, coming up on Monday. And of course, as we expected, there was a slew of new devices. And Mark, you've got hands-on. I'm very jealous.
That is right. The star of the show, Stephen, of course, on the hardware side, was the Pixel 9. And in my hands, I've got the Pixel 9 Pro XL. Let's, of course, not forget to mention the Pixel 9 and the Pixel 9 Pro and the Pixel 9 Pro Fold, all these different variations of the device. But here, holding in my little grubby hands, is the latest flagship device from Google, the Pixel
Yeah, you got to be
Pro
careful with those grubby hands. Covered in fingerprints.
Well, I got to be careful because the frame around this device, as I hold it up to the camera here, is super shiny, glossy stainless steel, and I'm trying to keep my fingerprints off it. I've got a nice little hanky here on the side, trying to do it, but I think I need to buy myself some hands-on display gloves. So, I mean, really, it's very much the same size as the iPhone Pro Max 15, at least, because we don't have a 16 yet. A pretty pronounced camera bump. When I hold it up sideways to the camera here, the camera bump is almost the width, the depth of probably about half the phone itself. Thankfully, they make cases, like this little speaking case I have here, which helps, hide that a little bit. Of course, the back of the device, you've got that nice G logo. I've got the white color here, and you've got the camera bump. The cool thing about the camera bump, Stephen, though, is that it spans the entire width of the phone. So it's not like individual camera bumps that'll get dust and have to be cleaned. If you want to clean it, you just take your little handy cloth here and just wipe everything, and it's one piece of glass that's covering it. You've got 3 cameras on board there. You've got a 48 megapixel wide, a 50 megapixel regular camera, and of course a macro there as well. There's a flash and a depth sensor as well on this device, which is pretty cool. As I rotate the phone sideways, you see that shiny side. The right side of the phone has a kind of on-off sleep-awake button, they call it. Toggle up and down for volume up and down, which is pretty cool. Then, of course, the front of the device, 6.8-inch diagonal screen, which when you tap it is nice and bright. I think it's over 1,000 nits. I think we're probably 1,200 nits of brightness here, which is pretty cool. One of the neatest things, Stephen, about this is the fingerprint sensor on this, and I'll try to do this sideways and see how fast it is. Super fast. Of course, on a live demo, it never works. I'm going to do, there we go. It opens up like super, super, super fast. It's a new ultrasonic design on the fingerprint reader, which is pretty cool. Camera notch on the front, again, a 42 megapixel front-facing camera. That's a little dot on the top of the screen. On the bottom of the device, you've got your speaker. Of course, you've got your USB-C charging port. You've got a vapor chamber that's there to actually reduce heat. So when you're doing high-end stuff like, I don't know, gaming on your device, you've got that as well. And that's pretty much all it, the hardware design of this. Really comfortable in the hand. It's not a very heavy phone. It actually seems a little bit lighter than the iPhone itself. But overall, a really nice package, and everything under the hood, Stephen, is just as you'd expect. Like, the AI features are the star of this show. This is where everything other than, a piece of glass with hardware behind it, the AI features are what really stick out. The Gemini in Android is just some pretty cool stuff, and we'll demo some stuff in a second. But I know you wanted to mention some of the accessibility enhancements in Android 15.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot to talk about. I mean, from my point of view as a blind guy, I'm interested in TalkBack, which is the screen reader that's built in to Android. Although I say built in, it's actually a separate app now. It used to be part of, the overall Android experience. Now it's a separate app, which means it gets updated separately. That's pretty cool. So TalkBack 15 was released alongside Android 15. But some other features as well. You've heard us talk before about guided frame, which is a really cool feature that allows a blind person to be able to line up for a selfie. You want to take a selfie, you want raise that phone up in front of you. You want to know that that camera's facing you, that it's the right camera, and you also want to know that camera is in the right position. And if there are people with you in the shot, you want to make sure that they're in frame as well. And guided frame does that. But it's now got some new features as well. It's going to be found in camera settings. It's going to also have improved object recognition, so not just faces. Face filtering as well. I mean, this sounds a little bit like something people would do on that thing called Instagram. Whatever. And subject focus. You get more granularity in your control of guided frame, of taking the pictures, which is great. It's not just taking a picture, you're getting more control as well, which is really cool. Now, I mentioned TalkBack. Some really cool features coming, in particular, detailed image descriptions coming in, and this is using Google Gemini, the AI assistant you're talking about. They've actually built it into TalkBack. This is pretty cool. First time we've ever seen AI being built in this way from an assistant on a device being connected directly to an accessibility feature, which is fantastic. The Look app as well, that is pretty cool. It's getting some cool new features in there, in particular being able to search for objects around you. So if you've downloaded Lookout on your phone, you're able to use it to select text, be able to read short text, hold up a package in front of it, find out information about the package, who it's from or who it's for, all that kind of stuff. You can get that information through the Lookout app, but now it can even detect objects. So if you've left your keys lying around, you can't find them, you can use the app to help. That's pretty cool. There's some other ones in there as well. Better PDF accessibility in Chromebooks, on the Chrome OS in particular. This is great, of course, for blind and low vision kids who are having to use PDFs. Anybody, frankly, who's using a Chromebook. A new Chromebook magnifier as well, which is kind of cool. It was not that great at the beginning, and that was partly because, how can I say this, Chromebooks for a long time were not the highest and most premium devices. So for that reason, you had a few issues there. But of course, this is great because it allows people who have low vision to see the screen more easily. And of course, let me mention as well, Maps. We've talked about this before, but it's finally implemented in Android 15. You can now get more information about wheelchair accessible venues and places. Plus live captions now, available in more languages, which is great. Google Meet, if you use that platform, which by the way is extremely accessible, it now has a number of languages as well that you can change your captions there. So lots and lots of cool features. I could go on and on.
Yeah, and they keep up, announcing new updates all the time, so we're going to see that evolve. One of the funnest ones, it goes back to the camera for a second, is called Add Me. This is something they demoed on stage. It lets you, as the photographer, actually be part of the photo, thanks to AI. And I actually shot a little demo of this with my son Zachary in the living room. Let's take a look at that. So Add Me is a cool feature on the new Pixel devices and the new Android 15. We go into the camera mode, and on the bottom, where it gives us options as to what kind of mode we use, we choose a mode called Add Me. It's going to prompt us right away, photographer 1, that's me, leave space for yourself and take the first photo. So Zach, you go sit on the couch, and I'm going to bring the camera back up, and I'm going to leave space for me in the photo. So I'm going to take the first photo, and it's going to prompt me right away, photographer 1, hand off the pixel and join the scene. So Zach, come to me here. You're going to take the phone. I'm going to hit OK over here. And it says photographer 2, align the frame and take a photo. So I hit OK. Zach's going to take the phone from me. He's going to keep it pointed in the same direction. And I'm going to go sit on the couch as if I was next to Zach. Does it say anything on the screen?
Take photo. So now we're going to take the photo.
Of course, the dog went in the picture, so we'll see how this ends up working. Take the photo.
It's processing now. So we click on the image and it's processing.
Okay.
Even though the dog went there,
it actually got rid of the dog. And look, now we have a photo of me and Zach sitting together on the couch. Very cool new feature on the Pixel 9 and, of course, Android 15 called Add Me. And even Stephen, with my dog walking into the shot, I managed to remove her, which was kind of cool. Sorry, Augie, we still love you. Yeah, other great AI features include Reimagine. It lets you add things to photos. Finally, they announced new Pixel Buds Pro 2, featuring some pretty cool features like authentic sound, 2x noise cancellation, 8 hours of battery life, and Gemini Live built right in for things like real-time translation, which is pretty cool. And the Pixel Watch, really cool stuff, available in multiple colors. It has GPS, a step counter, it can track workouts, and one of the coolest features of the watch, I think, is a thing called loss of pulse detection, which, thanks to all of the sensors, can actually warn you and actually call for help if it notices that you've lost a pulse. I can't wait to see this in action, and hopefully it won't, do wrong things like that crash detection did in iOS. But it's really, really cool stuff. So if there's anything specific that you have a question about or want us to dive into deeper, let us know. You can send us an email, feedback@accesstechlive.com. You can get in touch with us on all our socials at Access Tech Live, and we'll definitely get to that stuff and so much more as we dive into this phone. Coming up here on Access Tech Live, what are you looking forward to this Techtember? The poll is up on our socials, and we want to know. So stick around. We'll get to that in just a moment.
There's more Access Tech Live to come. Get involved and have your say at Access Tech Live on social media. We'll be right back. Access Tech Live will return in less than 2 minutes. Access Tech Live is in a commercial break. Access Tech Live will return in less than 2 minutes. Access Tech Live is in a commercial break. The show will return in less than a minute. Access Tech Live will be back in 30 seconds. This is Access Tech Live.
This is Techtember, the month where we get all the big events happening. Of course, Google have just had their event. Apple have their event coming up. Meta, Amazon, DJI are going to be announcing some new toys as well. I know you're very excited about that, Mark.
They did this morning,
what one are we excited about? Oh, it was today, was it? There you go. See,
yeah,
so you're
this
the
morning.
drone guy around here.
Yeah, but it's nothing terribly important. It's a fun little follow-me drone, which is kind of fun. But as you said, sorry, I interrupted you rudely there. Yeah, we've got a poll up on social media, and the question is, what tech event or announcements are you looking forward to most this Techtember? Because everybody has an opinion about this stuff, right, Stephen? The choices, we narrowed it down, okay? Apple's on new iPhones, of course. I think that might win. A new voice assistant, new voice and assistant in Amazon, and announcements from Meta. What are you looking forward to? Obviously, iPhones, okay, yes, but I don't know. I'm kind of looking forward to a new voice assistant in the Echo.
I've got to say, for me, it's the Meta event. That is what I'm all in on. Yeah, that's the one I'm most excited about. There's talk of a new AR headset coming out, possibly in a pair of glasses like I'm wearing right now. I've got the Meta Ray-Ban frames on as I speak. And I think something new is coming. I mean, look, there may well be an update to these glasses. I think that will be a marginal update, but there seems to be a lot of work going on in the background. Of course, new VR headsets, that's what people get excited about, new virtual reality. But to be honest, I think the interest, even in the mainstream, I mean, outside the disability community, I think in the mainstream, people are excited by these Meta frames because, you know what, you can just take pictures, you can share those pictures, you can send live video to Instagram. For blind people, it's great for sharing pictures. For disabled people, hands-free, able to do things like this. This is the kind of technology that can really enable so many cool things. I mean, IRA recently, the visual interpreter service, just announced that they're now working with actually being able to transfer a call via WhatsApp to your glasses. So I can walk down the street and get live real-time information as to where I am. This is massive stuff. So that's the event I'm looking out for.
Yeah, I kind of agree with you. I've been telling a lot of people hold off on buying the Ray-Ban frames. I think this is going to be just like software updates to that. But augmented reality, what's interesting though, Stephen, is that the surprises are few and far between these days, right? We're not really surprised by announcements. There's so many leaks and things going on. Yet Meta, they've managed to actually pull a couple out of their hat that we didn't see coming, which I think is really neat, and I'm looking forward to it as well. But also that voice on my Echo, I think, could use a little bit of a intelligence upgrade.
And there's rumor, of course, you mentioned it in the news about the subscription side of it, but there's also talk of a requirement for new hardware as well. That's interesting. So clearly new Amazon Echo toys. I'm going to have to replace all my hardware again. What a shame.
Yeah, like you wouldn't have done that in the first place if they came out with something Nice and shiny. Stephen, this time next week, we will be recapping everything that Apple announced on their Monday event. We'll be posting it, of course, on social media. Plus, we want to know your answer to that poll, so let us know what you're looking forward to most. You can get in touch with us. Again, feedback@accesstechlive.com is our email address. We like finding you there. And, of course, on social media, it's @AccessTechLive. So what are you looking forward to? I think, well, definitely I'm looking forward to Monday, and we'll see what comes from Apple at that event. At 1 p.m. Eastern Time. I don't know what that is for you, Stephen. It's late at night,
6
but
p.m.
we will find
6
out.
p.m., yeah.
6 p.m. Okay, we will find out together. Thank you for tuning in. We're happy to be back for the season, and we will catch you on our next episode here of Access Tech Live. Stick around next week.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks for tuning in to Access Tech Live. Follow us online on all social media at Access Tech Live. Email us feedback@accesstechlive.com. Hosted by Stephen Scott in Glasgow and Mark Aflalo in Montreal. Live show director, Anastasia Spalding-Stenhouse. Switcher and technical director, James Kennedy. Graphics, Caitlin Robinson. Audio, Kristen Prendergast. Integrated described video specialist, M. Williams. Supervising producer, Michelle Dudas. Produced in collaboration with Aflalo Communications, Inc. and Double Tap Productions. Copyright 2024, Accessible Media, Inc.
An AMI original production.